Right now, prosecutors in New York City are preparing for a showdown in what's likely to be one of the most watched trials of this decade. At the moment that this video is being recorded, those prosecutors are wrestling with the defense attorneys of one Luigi Mangione, the man charged with the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, in early December 2024. Ever since it happened, the murder and the fate of Mangione have generated fierce controversy in the United States, all wrapped up in a far larger discussion of America's broken healthcare system. As of now, Mangione faces over a dozen charges from 2 US states and the federal government, and his trial has all the makings of a media circus. So here's what you need to know before the trial begins, and what you should expect once it finally gets underway. Who is Luigi? What did he do? At the time of writing, in early December 2025, Luigi Mangione is in the pre-trial phase of his legal proceedings in the US state of New York. The date of his trial has not yet been firmly established, but as we'll discuss, these pre-trial proceedings will prove to be very important for what comes next, no matter which way things go. But in order to understand why this trial matters, and to understand why ordinary Americans are likely to follow this case very closely, we've got to turn back the clock and understand both who Luigi Mangione is and what he allegedly did on the morning of December 4th, 2024. By the way, just a note for our US viewers, who may already be familiar with the ins and outs of the Mangione case, for our purposes today we'll be giving an overview of the case and the upcoming trial instead of really getting into all of the details. If you'd like a longer episode on this topic in the future, just let us know. Alright, now let's go back to December 4th, 2024 outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. The time? 6:44 in the morning, and Brian Thompson, the CEO of America's largest health insurer, is walking into the hotel for an investors meeting. Across the street, a masked, hooded assailant stands waiting for Thompson to arrive, and then crosses the street as Thompson comes close. In an act captured on CCTV and shared widely across the globe after the fact, Thompson is shot from behind 3 times from a distance of about 6 meters using a suppressed 9mm pistol. The pistol would later be revealed to be a ghost gun using largely 3D printed parts that were manufactured using instructions that can be easily accessed online. The shooter doesn't wait around. He departs the scene on an e-bike, and then while passing through Central Park, he leaves a backpack stuffed with fake money from the game Monopoly. The shooter then leaves the city, but soon forensic investigators will find another signature element in the killing: 3 bullet casings, onto which the suspect had etched the words "delay, deny, depose." Brian Thompson, the victim in the shooting, would be pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. at Mount Sinai Hospital. Immediately as it happened, Thompson's death became a matter of national news in the United States. In fact, the writer of this episode, who is an American, can confirm that the push notifications from news sites were rolling in by mid-morning. Even though Mangione wouldn't be arrested for another 5 days, most Americans could very easily guess the motivation that a person might have for shooting Thompson. Of course, we've got to be very clear here. That doesn't mean that most Americans endorsed the killing, and for reasons that will become clear in a moment, we've got to issue the same blanket reminder that so many outside analysts have done when discussing this case. Murder is bad. As will why the American people didn't really have to guess when considering why some unknown person might have killed Brian Thompson. That's much less to do with Thompson himself and much more to do with the company that he represented. Although Thompson had worked for United Healthcare for over 2 decades, he was far from a public-facing figure, despite the fact that the corporation he led is a fixture in American life. United Healthcare is part of a corporation known as United Health Group. It's not only the United States' largest healthcare insurer, but it is the largest healthcare company in the world and one of the 10 largest companies in the world of any kind. As such, they are the single biggest private player in the American healthcare system, and if you know anything about the US healthcare system, you're probably aware that things are very bad there. In a hyper-polarized United States, most Americans still manage to agree that despite the good doctors and local health infrastructure they might personally be able to access, the broader system just sucks. It's ravaged by exorbitantly high prices where insurers, and especially United Health Group, are seen as bearing a large portion of the blame. In the United States, healthcare is treated as a business, not a human right, and with free rein to extract profits from people in need of treatment, private insurers and a mess of other corporate influencers make sure to take their cut. But even in a bloated, broken system, United Health Group has developed a bit of a special reputation by the time of that shooting in Manhattan. They're well known for allegations that they deny treatments, surgeries, medications, and other measures deemed necessary by doctors. This allegedly happens quite regularly and often for opaque reasons in a system where insurers can deny care and are incentivized to avoid spending on patient well-being unless it can't be avoided. Two of the three words etched onto bullet casings at the scene of the assassination, delay and deny, were well known to patients and healthcare professionals who've worked with United Health Group and who regularly allege that their insurance claims are delayed as long as possible or outright denied whenever the insurer can manage. They've allegedly tried to steer patients into their own subsidiary companies, they've allegedly required health organizations to avoid competing over physicians, and they've allegedly engaged in stock manipulation schemes for the alleged benefit of their executives. Allegedly. The company has been investigated for defrauding consumers on numerous occasions, overbilling the United States' Medicare system for sums estimated in the millions of dollars, attempting to monopolize the US healthcare industry, and more. Even just since the death of Brian Thompson in late 2024, United Health Group has been accused in a Guardian investigation of systemically paying off nursing homes in order to get them not to transfer nursing home residents to hospitals, even when those people needed care, and to pressure those nursing homes into signing do not resuscitate agreements for their patients. The organization has also developed a habit of legally threatening journalists and healthcare professionals who've criticized them, to which we'd like to state for posterity that all the alleged United Health Group actions that we've discussed are just that. They are allegations that for legal purposes we do not attempt to present as unequivocal fact. We spend all this time discussing United Health Group and the many allegations against them because even before a suspect was in custody, a fair subset of Americans had already made it clear that they didn't exactly disapprove of the broader statement. Of course, the vast majority took pains to reiterate that shooting and killing Thompson was unequivocally wrong. But that didn't stop those same people from expressing the rage that they or people in their lives had already felt toward United Health Group, sometimes for many years. When United Health Group posted a statement on Facebook in the wake of the shooting, it was bombarded with over 100,000 laughing emojis in its reaction section, and public polling by the University of Chicago found that nearly 70% of respondents felt that insurance claim denials or the profiteering of insurance companies were largely responsible for the death. Once a suspect, the aforementioned Luigi Mangione, was captured and identified, the reaction only intensified, with Mangione in some corners turning into something of a folk hero. The favorable reception for the 27-year-old was especially pronounced among young people, for whom another poll by Emerson College found that a full 41% found the killing to be, quote, acceptable or somewhat acceptable. Online crowdfunding initiatives have set aside over $1 million to aid Mangione's legal defense, and his likeness and the messages attributed to him have become widespread, especially in some of America's biggest cities. As for Mangione himself, he was captured 5 days after the killing at a McDonald's restaurant about 450 kilometers away from New York City. According to police, he was found with a 3D printed gun and suppressor on his person, as well as a fake driver's license that had been used in a Manhattan hostel in late November, and a short handwritten statement. According to transcripts released by law enforcement, Mangione wrote, among other messages, quote, "Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. They continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it." End quote. Prosecutors allege that Mangione's diary entries referred to, quote, "the deadly, greed-fueled health insurance cartel," and that he praised another highly controversial American killer, the Unabomber. Adding to his alleged motive, investigators have noted that Mangione suffered from chronic pain after a back injury and complex surgery, as well as Lyme disease, although he was never personally insured by United Health Group. We should note here that, like the allegations against United Health Group, the allegations against Mangione are, as of now, precisely that, and Mangione and his legal team have pled not guilty to all charges. Next up, we're going to talk about Mangione's approaching trial, but before we do that, we've got a question to ask. Do you enjoy what we do here at Political Fronts? Do you want more episodes, more analysis, deeper insights into the stories that are shaping our world? Do you crave these kinds of stories at the intersection of national politics, justice, economics, healthcare, and radicalization? Well, that's why our team has recently unveiled Fronts.co, our brand new website designed to provide you with exactly that. Our writers at Political Fronts and our sister channel War Fronts gather at Fronts.co to take an even closer look at the wars, the strategy, the politics, and the technology that define this moment in history. Every week, we release 2 exclusive video episodes that can't be found anywhere else, including our briefing room, a regular roundup of underreported stories that deserve your attention. And on Fronts.co, we publish 2 expert articles every week, drawing on journalists and analysts who've chosen to share their insights with our audience and the wider world. Elsewhere on the site, you'll get early access to every extended deep dive episode we release over on Warfronts, plus insider access to behind-the-scenes content, unreleased episodes, new merch offerings, and more. A subscription costs just $5 a month and helps us to grow our free offerings here at Warfronts. So if you want to support this channel and get a ton of content in return, head to fronts.co. There's a link in the description below. The trial ahead. Now, Mangione's trial in New York City has yet to begin, and, in fact, there's not even a date yet, but it's already become clear that the trial will neither be quick nor simple once it gets underway. As of the time of writing, the prosecution and the defense team are embroiled in a several-day pre-trial hearing in which both sides are advocating for or expressing their concerns against the inclusion of certain pieces of evidence. Chief among those concerns, Mangione's defense team has requested that several of their defendants' alleged statements, including the note found on his person, should not be used as evidence in the case. According to them, the search of Mangione's backpack was illegal because officers lacked a warrant at the time of the seizure, and statements that Mangione made at the scene should be inadmissible because although he was technically free to leave at that time, officers physically obstructed his path away from the scene. Those requests aren't particularly likely to be granted, and according to legal experts, it's more likely that Mangione's verbal and written statements will be allowed in full as evidence against him. Prosecutors also intend to use the recordings of the 911 call that led to his arrest, images of Mangione allegedly moving around New York prior to the killing, and, of course, the footage of Thompson's shooting. Separately, the defense team hopes to stop the prosecution from relying on non-eyewitness identification, meaning that witnesses wouldn't be able to testify whether Mangione was present in a certain place or at a certain time, including in the shooting depicted on video, unless they can attest that they saw him personally. If the judge allows for that exception, then it'll be much harder for prosecutors to tie Mangione conclusively to the video of Thompson's shooting, where his full face is never visible. Whatever the judge ultimately decides, the range of available evidence in the case may dictate whether Mangione is found guilty on all counts or manages to evade at least some of the charges against him. At present, Mangione faces charges of second-degree murder and 8 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the state of New York. Once this trial concludes, he'll have to face or otherwise address a set of federal charges, including the use of a firearm to commit murder, interstate stalking, and stalking through the use of interstate facilities resulting in death, and using a firearm equipped with a silencer to commit a crime. He'll also have to answer charges in Pennsylvania, where he was apprehended: forgery, false identification to law enforcement, carrying a gun without a license, and possessing a, quote, instrument of crime. He has already avoided one set of charges, an attempt in New York State to charge him with murder in furtherance of terrorism. If he is found guilty, Mangione will face up to life imprisonment on the state-level charges, while U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has instructed federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty. Meanwhile, all outward indicators suggest that public support for Mangione remains. On the first day of his pre-trial proceedings, demonstrators gathered outside the Manhattan courthouse, where a pair of vans drove through the surrounding streets and displayed both Mangione's likeness and statistics that reflect quite poorly on the healthcare industry. Online, the pre-trial appearance generated a whole new round of commentary buzz. That conversation is only expected to swell in its size and engagements as the trial gets underway. Beyond the shooting of Brian Thompson, Mangione fans have quite frequently expressed their frustration at the way that he's been treated while in custody, deriding both the decision to try and pursue terrorism charges against him and the staging of a highly elaborate perp walk as attempts to politicize the trial and gin up sympathy for United Health Group. Mangione's actions and his fate during and after trial have become just as polarizing as anything else in American political discourse, and depending on where you look, he's become anything from a sex symbol to a V for Vendetta-style role model to a misguided young criminal to a cold-blooded terrorist. For that reason, jury selection is expected to be very challenging when that process eventually takes place, as both the defense and the prosecution will have to agree on jurors who say they've somehow avoided forming any opinion on the case beforehand. As the United States gears up for the trial, expect to see widespread media coverage, both regarding the Mangione case directly and the case's larger implications for the nation's healthcare system. The trial will likely take place as America builds up to its midterm election season in a fraught political environment that's been marred by recent overt acts of political violence. A verdict in either direction may become a referendum on something far larger, and right now, Americans of every political persuasion are likely to pay attention. Now, as ever, whatever happens in the United States tends to generate major ripple effects across the globe, and a trial like this probably won't be any different. Thank you for watching.